So today we will create an example of ejb 2.1. We will use Eclipse Indigo as ID and Oracle Weblogic server as the application server. Tomcat server does not support ejb. ejb is supported only by application servers. Application server has a ejb container. ejb container is responsible for managing ejb components. So now we'll see an example of ejb version 2.1. First we create a new enterprise application project. Project version should be 1.4. In this window we have to add modules to this enterprise application project. To add a new module, click on new module button. So we select only two modules, ejb module and web module. ejb module will contain ejb components and web module will be used to call the ejb components. So here we can see that two modules are created. One is ejb module, another one is web module. Now we will create a ejb component in the ejb module. So we right click on the ejb module, right click new class. Here we enter name of the package, name of the class, so to make this class a session bean, we have to implement the session bean interface. This interface is present in the package javax.ejb. Basically, there are three types of ejb components. One is entity bean. Entity bean is used to represent data in the database. Another is message driven bean. Message driven bean is used to consume messages from Java messaging service asynchronously. And third is session bean. Session bean is used to provide any service to the client. So to create a session bean, we have to implement session bean interface. This interface contains methods. Now we will define those methods in the class. So there are 4 methods present in the session bean interface. ejb activate, ejb passivate, ejb remove, and set session context. And also we have to define one additional method in the session bean class, and that method is ejb create method. This method will be called when ejb component is created. And we also add business methods in this class. These business methods will be called by the client application. Now we create an interface that will be used to call ejb methods by the client. This in, this interface is called component interface, and it extends ejb object interface. The component interface declares the business methods that are defined in the ejb class. So this is the business method. Now we create another interface which is called home interface. Home interface will return a reference to the ejb object. And home interface inherits ejb home interface. Home interface declares create method. Create method returns the reference to ejb object. And all these methods will be called remotely, so they must throw remote exception, and create method also throws create exception. The business method should throw remote exception. Now in the deployment descriptor named ejb2.xml, we will declare these classes and interfaces. So here display name and ejb name are the names given to ejb in the deployment descriptor. Home specifies the ejb home interface name. Remote specifies the ejb remote or ejb component interface. ejb class specifies the class name of ejb, complete class name it should be. Session type specifies the type of session bean. There are two types of session beans, stateful and stateless. Stateless session bean does not maintain client state, and stateful session bean maintains client state. At runtime, one stateless session bean can be called by more than one clients, but if the session type is stateful, then each client will be assigned a unique stateful session bean. Transaction type can be of two types, bean or container. In the container managed transaction, the transactions are managed by the container, and we can specify the transactions declaratively in the XML file. But if transaction type is bean, then we have to do coding to manage the transactions. Now, to validate this XML file, right click, first we save the file, right click validate, so there are no errors. Now we will create a servlet in the web module to call the ejb methods. The client also needs the component interface and home interface to call the ejb methods. Now we declare ejb in the web.xml deployment descriptor. So ejb ref name, ejb reference name is the name which we will use to call the ejb component, which will this name will be used to look up the ejb component to be called. ejb ref type is the type of ejb. It is session bean. Home and remote are the interfaces. ejb link specifies the jar file that is containing the ejb class and the name of the ejb class. Now we'll open the servlet and call the ejb method. So here we create an object of initial context class. Initial context class has a method, lookup method. This lookup method will search for an ejb named A and it will return its object. Object will be assigned in the object reference O. Next, we call the narrow method of portable remote object. This narrow method returns a reference to an object that implements a home interface. Next, we will call the create method of a home interface. This create method will return an object of ejb object. Now we'll call the business method hello, that is exposed by ejb object. Now we handle the exceptions. If name is not found, naming exception is thrown. And create exception is thrown by create method. Now we will deploy this enterprise application in the Weblogic server. We start the Weblogic server. Now we log in to the Weblogic admin console. This is the port number. Port number is 7001. Now we click on deployments node. Click on install. To deploy the ER file that we exported, we should click on this link, upload your files. Now we select the EAR file, enterprise archive file that we created earlier. So we can see this EAR file is deployed and it contains two modules. One is ejb module. EJBs are packed in a jar file. Another one is web module. Web module is packed in a web archive file. Now we will make a request to the servlet present in this web module. That servlet will call the EJB present in the EJB module. So ejb business method is called and this is the return value. EJB can be called from a Java application, from a JSP or servlet